Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I'm headed out the door to the old day job, and then I'm off to check out the new anthology film, Freaky Tales. Freaky Tales tells the story of 4 different groups of people in Oakland, California in 1987. And that's all the real details I know about this movie, and honestly, I like keeping it that way. I don't want to know everything going into an anthology film. What I do know is that Pedro Pascal is in this movie, and I've seen the Red Banded trailer, and this movie looks like it's going to be insanely over-the-top violent. It also looks like it's going to be just bathed in neon color. Just going to really play into that 1987 theme for this movie. Well, you know what, guys? It's enough of me sitting here jibber-jabbering on, because one, I got to get to the old day job, and then I'm off to check out Freaky Tales. Welcome back, just getting home from Freaky Tales. And guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. So let's get things started. Now, I don't really have any what you would consider typical negatives for this film, but there are things that I'm going to just make people aware of that I think might cause some of the enjoyment of this film to lack in some folks. The first thing I want to talk about is this green light that's in this film. Now, okay, at the very beginning of the movie, we do get an explanation of what the green light is all about, but for some crazy reason, it didn't stick with me, okay? So then when the light starts to get utilized and you start to see it, you're just kind of like, okay, so that's just a stylistic choice, neat, and then it just kind of keeps going. And the only thing I could really notice is that there's this, underlying story, this underlying meaning of an underdog kind of getting on top, the underdog taking control. And I feel like that light would show up, or there for some reason something green would happen when the underdog was about ready to just kind of strike out, when they were about to become the other dog, the upper dog, whatever. So I think that's kind of what that light was there for, but to be perfectly honest, it really didn't add anything to the movie in my opinion. It was a neat stylistic choice, and it was a neat way to bring the stories together in a certain way, but it really didn't do a whole lot because all these stories do connect in some way or another. Even if it's just a little brief moment, everything comes together eventually in this movie, and I thought that was pretty cool, but for some reason this green light just did not do it for me. Also, too, this film is an absolute love letter to the people, the culture, and the music of Oakland, California. So if you're somebody who wasn't born, raised, or lived in Oakland, California, this movie might not mean a whole lot to you because I do feel like the stories in this film were urban legends. Maybe people from that area know a little bit more about these stories. They mean a little bit more. Because while they were fun, unfortunately, there was a little bit of depth left out of them. Once you really started to kind of grasp on the characters and really start to like somebody, it just felt like it was time to move on to the next one, which I understand is an anthology story type of thing, but with all of these coming together eventually, you kind of wish that the characters got a little bit better fleshed out, a little bit more. The stories themselves are pretty solid. I liked each and every one of them. They all have a different kind of theme and a different thing going on, even though they all interconnect in some way, shape, or form. Each one of the stories definitely has its own vibe, and I really enjoyed that about the film. But I do believe that there's just some things are just not going to translate over to somebody if you just didn't experience it or aren't really too familiar with the stories of the area. That being said, I still had a lot of fun with this movie, so let's move into the positives. The first thing I want to talk about is just the visuals. Now, this movie is filled with a lot of flash, color, and a lot of really well-filmed action sequences. A lot of fight stuff going on, a lot of great violence. There are some pretty decent practical effects, but unfortunately, a lot of the blood effects in this movie are CGI. There was some practical effects that were used that looked really good, but I'm sorry, this is going to go back into that mixed. I just can't get behind CGI blood. It just doesn't look right for me. It makes things look kind of cartoony, and it pulls me out of the intensity of the moment. So unfortunately, that's a me thing. That's not a you thing. But for me, I just use the real stuff. You can still make it look over the top and cartoony with real practical effects. You don't have to use cartoon blood. Alright, so I'm done ranting about that. Other than that, the fight sequences and all were really cool done. There was a lot of style with it. It wasn't necessarily fight choreography. It was mostly a lot of just big brawls and things of that sort. And it did a great job of being able to like kind of localize in on some people, then shoot over to someone else. It just didn't look like a whole haywire mess. So let's just put it that way. Each one of these stories is a lot of fun. I enjoyed each one of them. I don't have necessarily a favorite. I thought each one of these stories did a great job of telling a story, having, not being very long also, and being able to get in there, get the whole story out. I just wish we could have got to spend a little bit more time with some of the characters in this movie because I really, really liked them. Everything in this film is a lot of fun. Now, if you are someone who cannot handle a lot of violence, again, this is a fairly bloody, gory film. There is a lot of violence in this film. So if you're someone who just can't handle that at all, it might be a tough watch for you. There are some really also great comedic moments in this movie. Not everything is taken super seriously. That's kind of the tone of this film anyways. Nothing is really taken super seriously. All in all, guys, I would have to say if you're someone who enjoys a very style-filled, action-style film with a pretty decent story attached to it, or I should say 4 different stories, then this is definitely going to be up your alley. If you don't like the violence and you don't like watching a story that has to bounce around a little bit and try to, remember things like what was the purpose of a green light that you were told 4 stories ago, this might be something that will annoy you. It's not like Pulp Fiction where it's, bounces around. Well, it kind of does actually on different time periods of the day, but it also, I feel like it had a little bit better flow to it than Pulp Fiction. It wasn't as confusing popping around from each one of the stories and fitting them all together in this film. All in all, guys, fun time will be had, but I do feel, in all honesty, most people are going to want to watch this at home on a streaming service, not necessarily in the theaters. If you're somebody who loves movies like this, who like to see a nice style-filled flash film, and you're not in the mood to go see Minecraft this weekend, this might definitely be for you. But in my opinion, guys, in all honesty, I think a lot of people are going to get more enjoyment out of this movie sitting at home watching on their TV. Well, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.